Baltimore stated, remember where you came from. Remember your baptism. Remember this Jesus. Remember and be remade as God's new creation. Now, while at General Convention, I was trying to find my footing while crisscrossing a cavernous convention center in Baltimore, and those who were there know just how big it was. And I was trying to navigate this space with an injured and throbbing instep, my left foot. I somehow heard it, most likely while taking vigorous walks in the months prior to pound out a few urgent concerns. But there it was, a constant reminder. And even while at Lambeth, I longed for tender steps, often needing to rest and to put my feet up, for I was ever more keenly aware of my own footing or lack thereof. I recall the Archbishop of Jerusalem, Hossam Noam, in a talk at the Lambeth Conference, and I quote, "Every day," he said, "I walk in the footsteps of Jesus, literally and metaphorically. And yet it can be an alienating place among the sacred stones. We go to the Holy Land to see the dead stones, the churches, but we are the living stones." He concluded, "I often wonder, how do we become living stones, walking in the footsteps of Jesus?" As I prepared to address you at this, the 151st Diocesan Convention, I also returned to our foundation, our diocesan footings, so to speak. And I see them as the Episcopal Church's commitment to the beloved community, a commitment that guides the work of many faith communities and denominations toward racial reconciliation, healing, and justice. I also considered our 5 priorities put forth from our envisioning process and our ongoing discipleship and advocacy for the most vulnerable. As the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once wrote, "The aftermath of nonviolence is the creation of the beloved community, so that when the battle is over, a new relationship comes into being." Thus, the road to the beloved community starts with each of us. And before us is the injustice that exists in our systems of law, education, healthcare, housing, law enforcement, mass incarceration, and other structures. The creation of the beloved community is not about us or them. It is not about demeaning or shaming the other. It is calling forth the good within each of us and befriending those who differ. The beloved community, I believe, is that reality where reconciliation is always the end goal, where we live a life ensuring that all creation can live a safe and just existence, and where resources are shared for the betterment of everyone. Most of all, it is where love does not seek anything in return. Dear siblings in Christ, the beloved community is for all of us, and it starts with us. It is the essence of being living stones. As 1 Peter tells us, let yourselves be built into a spiritual house. And at the heart, becoming living stones, I believe, is interconnected with our own holiness. It is becoming more of who God created me to be, and my responding in love to those around me. Forgiving, healing, and expanding the arc of justice. Let me speak hard truth. Presently, we are living in days of growing division and violence. Wars are raging, institutions are slowly crumbling, and we have lost trust in the highest of offices. Civility is hanging by a thread, and our most basic human rights are under attack. As I have been sharing around the diocese, there is trouble ahead. There's trouble ahead. Inside our walls and outside our red doors are folk thirsting for hope and a better way of living and loving. If there is any time in history for the church to speak and act boldly in love, it is now. So I often say, God has created us and formed us for this moment. Let us build the beloved community. This past spring, I reviewed with Diocesan Council and the Standing Committee learnings and accomplishments from our envisioning process. Many of these insights were gleaned from a staff retreat that we held earlier in the year, and it was an opportunity to take stock of our spiritual home, to check our foundation, and to celebrate all that has unfolded over these last 4 years as we look to the future. I want you to hear some of the conclusions of those who participated, members of our leadership bodies, and I quote, "We have tackled difficult challenges head on." Another said, "It feels like we're on solid financial footing." Another said, "Getting at the issues of struggling congregations has been critical, and giving voice to more people has been transformative." Another said, "It feels like our culture is shifting." We also heard that the canon missioner approach is a future-focused model, but do parishioners fully understand it? Another said, "Improving compensation and benefits across the diocese must be a priority. We need that task force." And also there was some caution. We have momentum now. Is reunification necessary? At our pre-convention gatherings, and I thank you for so many who joined us, we also heard, when will our stockpiled resources dry up? Do we have a longer-term plan? Others offered, would the geography of a reunified diocese be too daunting? Would we ever see our bishop? And giving the 8.5% cost of living increase this year, how will we pay for this in the years ahead? Let me share words that were offered by our treasurer, Libby House. I want you to listen closely to her report today as well. But I believe it was during one of our gatherings, it may have been at convention or at one of our council meetings, Libby stated, "It is from a position of financial strength that we enter into conversations with the Diocese of Central Pennsylvania and explore the possibility of reunification. It is our longer-term plan. It is because of your efforts over the last 4 years, your sacrifice, your perseverance in the most daunting COVID moment, that we're able to proudly say that our foundation, our spiritual house, is strong. And from this vantage point, we must decide how to embrace our future with passion, with hope, with expectation. The Pentecost dawns moment that we inaugurated in May of 21, that hopeful envisioning of a new future has included the hiring of new staff members and holding what I believe is the Episcopal Church's first ever ministry fair. And this led to 18 congregations and 1 Lutheran calling new clergy, and 4 or so who will soon follow. I want to name them. I want to name your new leadership. You can wave when I call you out. From mediator in Allentown, Dale Granfield. From the Cathedral of the Nativity in Bethlehem, Barry Hart and Marianne Philbrook, and soon their next dean. From Trinity Easton, Barbara Harrison Seward, and soon to arrive, the assistant, Donna Lockhart. St. Margaret's and Emmaus, Laura Howe. From St. James and St. George and German, Howard Stringfellow. From Grace Honesdale, J. O'Rear. From St. Paul's Montrose, Liz Grahowski. From St. Thomas Morgantown, Millard Cook. St. Mark's Moscow, Tyler Perry. St. Martin in the Field, Mountaintop, Charlie Warwick. Trinity Pottsville, St. James Schuylkill, St. John's Ashland and Holy Apostles, St. Clair, North Parish, Kurt Kovalovich. St. John's Lutheran and Redeemer Sayer, Scott Harvey. St. Albans, Sinking Spring, Michelle Moyer. Christ Stroudsburg, Bruce Gow. And Christ Tawanda, Betsy Sentigar. Congratulations. What a blessing. These calls represent a 50% shift in the 30-plus diocesan parochial clergy. We now have 16 full-time clergy and 7 clergy who are serving 2 or more congregations. Kurt, I believe, leads with 4, and Charlie's right behind with 3. 16 or so congregations are being led by supply priests, deacons, and lay leaders. This in itself is a dramatic shifting in just the last 4 years. Also, let me highlight, in 2022, we came together for Gather 22, an event keynoted by Dean Kelly Brown Douglas of EDS at Union. We enjoyed workshops led by diocesan leaders, bringing formation for all to the forefront. Gather 23 is just around the corner. I want to thank Judy for our Racial Justice and Reconciliation Task Force report that we'll hear in a few moments. We applaud your efforts on behalf of justice. I also wish to recognize the leaders of our newly planted Latinx congregations and our mission resources, finance and investment committees for their steady leadership. I also want to thank Deacon Charlie Barabo and those who lead our efforts in Kajukeji, South Sudan. Let me just say what a privilege it was for Patty and for me to meet Bishop Pogo, the new Secretary General of the Anglican Communion, and his wife this past summer. These partnership efforts from the earliest days live on. While at Lambeth, I reconnected with Bishop Emmanuel and also with Bishop Joseph Abu of the neighboring diocese where one of our schools is located. Their gratitude for all that you've done over the years and continue to do was overwhelming. I so long to return to Kajukeji, hopefully in 2024. Rectors from our largest congregations have begun gathering together monthly with Canon Barbara to dig deeper into the 5 priorities and discover what it means to be vital in their particular context. Similarly, Canon Melinda has begun to visit congregations in the northern regions of the diocese and to engage conversations about community partnerships, church fellowships, and also strengthen convocation efforts. Looking at new offerings, such as finance and audit trainings. And as I have returned to a more regular schedule of visitations, I am rediscovering the many outreach and mission partnerships that you've kept strong or forged anew across our diocese. Feeding programs, homeless ministries, daycare and educational support, outreach to refugees, support for seniors, feeding programs at nearby schools, ecumenical partnerships, just to name a few. Your presence in your communities is stunning. Pentecost dawns. You are surely living stones. In closing, I wish to say a few final words about the resolutions that are before us this day. I am so hopeful about our future. The budget that has been carefully crafted to respond to the financial uncertainty of this moment also bespeaks of the wise and prudent stockpiling of resources over the past 4 years. Rest assured, we will respond to the changes and even trouble ahead with the same careful approach, placing the needs of our congregations and our most vulnerable members first. We can and will do this together. We will continue to tend to familiar and wily vines, as well as plant new seedlings. Our Latinx communities and the St. Barnabas Center in Kutztown remind us of the vibrancy that comes when we reach out in faith and follow our passions. Please consider carefully your standing committee, Bishop Audrey Scanlon, and my call to enter into a season of exploration, discovering the possibility of a new future as a reunified diocese. We are hewn from the same rock, and upon this rock, with Jesus as our cornerstone, we will continue to find our footing. Join me in becoming more of the beloved community, hopeful and justice-focused voices in this conflicted time. We are living stones. Let us walk together in love. I now call on Judy Dickerson, a member of the Diocesan Racial Justice and Reconciliation Task Force, to give us an update on the task force's progress since our last convention.
Thank you, Bishop Kevin. The Task Force for the Racial Justice and Reconciliation of the Episcopal Diocese of Bethlehem seeks to encourage parish leaders and members to live out our baptismal covenant, acknowledging and dignifying the lived experiences of people of color, to bring to light any longstanding overt, past, and present subtle patterns of oppression, of white-centered culture that deeply divide us, to renew our commitment and engagement to repair, heal, and reconcile the beauty of the image and likeness of God in every human being. And to that mission, for our common life, a 4-part virtual formation series was created that focused on issues of racial reconciliation and the calling of the church and our diocese to strive for justice and peace. Key interviews and conversations provided on racial justice and reconciliation ushered in a movement to reconcile, repair, and embrace God's diverse dreams for our church. You can find these recordings on our diocesan YouTube page, the Diocese of Bethlehem. The celebration services were conducted honoring Absalom Jones, the first African-American priest ordained in the Episcopal Church, and acknowledging Juneteenth, the historic day marking the freeing of slaves in Texas. Support has been provided to implement Sacred Ground as a tool to address Bishop Kevin's 5 pillars, including support of the diocesan convocation model for stronger communication and interfaith coalition and relationship building. The land acknowledgement prayer provided earlier and introduced at our opening worship this morning was composed for the dissemination to parishes. And plans continue to delve into diocesan history and truth-telling through shared stories.
Thank you, Judy, and thank you to all the members of the Racial Justice and Reconciliation Task Force. At this time, we will take a 10-minute break. We'll see you back shortly. Welcome back. I hereby call to order the 151st Annual Convention of the Diocese of Bethlehem. What a joy it is for me to be with you this day virtually. Thank you in advance for your patience and understanding. How blessed we are to do this holy work. A couple of reminders as we begin. As bishop, I am temporarily adopting the virtual rules of order, which were sent along with your registration link. We will vote on them after a quorum is established. Zoom has automatically muted all attendees. This is to ensure that background noise will not overwhelm the presenters and members when questions are asked. We will provide time for questions during various parts of convention. At these times, we will ask that you use your raised hand feature, which can be found on the lower part of your screen. When you're called upon, we will unmute you to speak. When called upon to speak, please state your name, whether you are a clergy person or a lay delegate, along with your parish and the city that you represent. I call upon the Reverend Canon Melinda Artman, reporting on behalf of the Committee on Claims of Clergy and Lay Delegates to Seats, to report on certification of the presence of a clerical and lay quorum. A quorum equals 20 clerical members. Lay members represent 20 congregations.
Thank you, Bishop. The Committee on Claims and Clergy and Lay Delegates to Seats reports that there are 130 clergy who meet the residency requirements of Article 5, Section 2 of the Constitution, and are therefore qualified to vote in the convention. I certify that 40 clergy are registered and entitled to seat, voice, and vote in this convention, representing more than 20 of the canonically resident clergy. Accordingly, a quorum is present. Additionally, the committee reports that 57 parishes have met the requirements of Article 5, Section 3 of the Constitution and are entitled to their proper number of delegates and votes in the convention. I hereby certify that 66 lay delegates representing 46 congregations of this diocese are registered and entitled to seat, voice, and vote in this convention. This satisfies the requirement of having delegates from at least 20 congregations present, and accordingly, a quorum is present.
Thank you, Canon Melinda. Accordingly, I declare that a quorum is present, and I call upon Linda Henry, Diocesan Chancellor, to offer us insights on today's virtual rules of order.
Thank you, Bishop. The rules of order, which you see on your screen, refer to the voting system and the method of participating in this convention going forward. The voting system and the software are identical to that which the diocese used in 2021, and these rules of order are identical to those which were adopted by the Diocesan Convention in 2021. Therefore, these rules of order are presented to convention for the conducting of the business of the 151st convention.
Thank you, Linda. Hopefully, you've all had an opportunity to review a copy of the rules of order that were sent along with your registration link. As chair, I have adopted these rules as temporary rules of order, I now place these rules of order before convention for adoption as rules of order for the 151st Convention of the Episcopal Diocese of Bethlehem. At this time, we will have our first virtual vote. On your screen will be a simple voting poll with a yay or nay. Select yay if you are in favor and nay if you're not. Please vote. Voting is closing. Voting is now closed, and the results are now posted on your screen. The virtual vote has received 185 yay votes and 0 nay votes. Accordingly, 105 yay votes and 0 nay votes. Accordingly, the virtual rules of order have been adopted for this convention. I invite the Reverend Canon Melinda Artman for recommendation on seat and voice.
Thank you. I ask the chair for seat and voice for the following. For our diocesan staff, Steve Baker, Paula Lipinski, Sandy Millian, Cindy Bakos, and Jean Millian. And for our licensed clergy, the Very Reverend Barry Hart and the Reverend Kenneth Scott Harvey.
Thank you, Melinda. At this time, we will have a virtual vote. On your screen will be a simple voting poll with a yay or nay. Select yay if you are in favor and nay if you're not. Please vote.
So I vote no.
Is that Sandy spelled it?
Sandy,
Voting is closing.
did we spell her name wrong?
No.
Voting is now closed, and the results are posted on your screen. Virtual vote has received 112 yay votes and 0 nay votes. Accordingly, I declare seat and voice be granted. Since our last convention, we have ordained the following people. As priests, the Reverend Elizabeth Grahowski, the Reverend Mary Catherine Cole, the Reverend Tyler Perry, the Reverend Bruce Gow, the Reverend J. O'Rear, and as transitional deacon, the Reverend Mary Ann Philbrook. Since our last convention, we have received the Reverend Millard Cook. We currently have the following people in the process. Transitional deacons on track to be ordained priests in the next year, the Reverend Betsy Centigar, the Reverend Mary Ann Philbrook, the Reverend Michelle Costin. Seminarians, Jennifer Burkhardt, the Reverend Michelle Costin, Michael Angel Molina, and Bill Stewart. We welcome to our diocese the Reverend Canon Barbara Harrison Seward and the Reverend Canon William Warren. We welcome new to the diocesan staff, the Reverend Canon Barbara Harrison Seward as Southern Canon Missioner. Our clergy who have retired or will later this year are the Reverend Van Bankston, Good Shepherd in Milford, the Reverend Daniel Hinkle, and the Very Reverend Anthony Pompa, the Cathedral of the Nativity. And sadly, clergy who have died this past year, the Reverend Dr. Jane Gata. The following committees of convention are now presented on your screen. The Committee on Nominations Standing Committee, the Reverend Doug Moyer, Chair. Claims of Clergy and Lay Delegates to Seats in Convention and Resolutions Committee, the Reverend Canon Melinda Artman, Chair, the Reverend Marianne Philbrook, and Canon Sandy Millian. Constitutions and Canons Committee, Linda Henry, Ty Wells, and John Feather. Linda Henry is Chair. At this time, we have a report from the Chair of the Resolutions Committee.
It helps if you unmute. The Resolutions Committee reports that the committee has received 3 resolutions. Those resolutions will be moved by the appropriate committee and placed before the convention at the appropriate time. The Resolutions Committee has considered the resolutions as to form, substance, and language, and we recommend resolutions 2 and 5 as submitted. Currently, on your screen, the Resolutions Committee recommends that Resolution 1 with the following change as indicated in red, either it's strike through or as new language. We are recommending this change based on feedback received during pre-convention meetings, and the change reflects our desire to seek parity between the clergy and lay orders with regards to recommending the cost of living increase.
Thank you, Canon Melinda. At this time, we ask if there are any resolutions from the floor. If you have a resolution from the floor, please use the raised hand feature. Are there any resolutions from the virtual floor? Please wait.
I'm checking in with John Feather. John, please use the chat if at this time you have anything to add. I don't think I'm able to resolve your issue quickly.
Okay, thank you. Paul, do you see any hands raised?
I do not, Bishop.
I declare that call for resolutions are now closed. I call on the Secretary of Convention, Judy Dickerson, to report out the nominations in the absence of the Reverend Doug Moyer, Chair of the Nominating Committee. Judy?
For diocesan council clergy, 2 are to be elected: the Reverend Susan Trainer, the Reverend Dr. Jane Williams for 2nd term. For diocesan council lay, to elect 2, Joan Ducklow and Rick Wolf. The standing committee clergy electing 1, the Reverend Rodney Kahn. The standing committee lay to elect 1, Charles Dickerson. The Commission on Ministry clergy to elect 1, the Reverend Bruce Gow. The Commission on Ministry lay electing 1 is vacant. The General Convention deputy clergy, 4 to be elected: the Reverend Timothy Allman, the Reverend Rebecca Barnes, the Reverend Jane Arrington Bender, the Reverend Bruce Gow, the Reverend J. O'Rear, the Reverend Dr. Margaret Pendergast, the Reverend Susan Trainer. The General Convention deputy lay, which 4 to be elected: Kathy Bailey, Charles Dickerson, Judith Dickerson, Jay Miller, Cynthia Norty, Jana Norty.
Thank you, Judy. Do we have any nominations from the floor? If so, please use the raised hand feature. Are there any nominations from the virtual floor?
We are all clear, Bishop.
Thank you, Paula. I declare that nominations are now closed. I move that the Secretary of Convention cast 1 ballot for the uncontested nominees on the regular ballot for clergy and lay members of council and clergy and lay members of standing committee and clergy member of Commission on Ministry. Do we have a second?
Canon Barbara Harrison Stewart, Trinity Easton. I second this motion.
Thank you, Canon Barbara. At this time, we will have a virtual vote. On your screen will be a simple voting poll with a yay or nay. Select yay if you're in favor, nay if you're not. Please vote. Voting is closing. Voting is now closed, and the results are now posted on your screen. The virtual vote has received 108 yay votes and 4 nay votes. Congratulations to those elected. This time I invite you to hold your hat, and I invite Paula Lipinski to come forward to offer instructions on voting. Paula.
Good morning, everybody. It has been a whirlwind of a morning. Thank you all for your patience in dealing with our technical issues. It does look like quite a few of you were able to get into vPoll and do the check-in, which is extremely helpful. So hopefully this next part here shall go smoothly. We will be using vPoll for several ballots. General Convention is likely to take several times, and we will also be using it for one of our resolutions. So once you are in vPoll, we ask that you do keep that link open, as we will be using it over and over again, so it'll just be easier for you to get back in. So if you were able to check in using the vPoll prior to convention, you want to go back to that screen with your web browser and come out to the vPoll screen. At this time, you should see an option to vote for the General Convention deputies for clergy. There are 7 of them. You are going to elect 4. It will require you to select 4. John, can you flip to the next screen? If you did not check in or you closed your ballot application, Sandy, can you put the link in the chat? In the chat feature will be the link to go to VPoll Mobi, or you can type in www.vpoll.mobi. On the front screen, you're going to type the access code is Diobeth22, all lowercase, no spaces. On the second line, you're going to put your first name. Third line, you're going to hit enter join with that button. Then that's going to bring you to a screen where you're going to enter your first name, your last name, and your ID number, which should be your phone number that you registered with. 10 digits, no one in the front, no dashes, no spaces, no parentheses, just the straight 10-digit number. And you're going to select the polling session of Convention 2022 in the drop-down box and submit. From there, you should see the open ballot. If you're having any issues, you can call the diocesan office. We will try and walk you through. If you, or you can email Sandy at sandy@diobeth.org or cindy@diobeth.org. And one of them should be able to assist you as well. We're going to allow a few minutes for voting and the ability to work through any issues that people might be having. So give us a few minutes here and we will close this poll shortly, and then we'll move on to the voting for the lay deputies of General Convention. So give us a few moments here to get through this polling.
Or could you tell?
I just want to make sure that you are all going to V-poll to complete the voting. There are a handful that have not.
I am
Go ahead,
unable to get in.
Carla.
I pushed the link and I can't get in to vote.
Carla,
Yes,
where are you at on the screen? Have you gotten to
it says
vpoll.move?
voting is at HTTPS V poll Mobi, and when I hit that, I get nowhere. It says they can't get me in. I voted in the other stuff, but I can't get in to vote for this.
Do you still have the vote open from the other stuff? It won't allow you to log in more than once.
Well, I don't know where it is. I can't seem to find it. I can't seem to get back to my regular screen where it was. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Should I leave this screen here? To go back to my,
Yes, you want to go back to your web browser.
okay, leave.
Okay, we are going to close this poll and move on to our lay delegates. So I have a few moments here. I'm going to close that poll. We've got to move on. On your screen, you should now see the voting for the lay ballot, which includes 6 people. Again, you're going to elect 4. Once you've elected your 4, make sure you click the submit button.
I want to thank everybody for your patience and walking through this moment with us. I wanted to take a moment while we're gathering this. If you've already completed your VPOL and you're feeling confident that you're all set, feel free to listen to me. If you're still working on that, please, by all means, focus on your VPOL. But it was shared with me that in conventions past that we often say a bit about what each of the staff members do, so people can be kind of reminded. And particularly now with new staff and new members, I thought it might be helpful to walk through some of the responsibilities. And I surely won't cover the enormity of what your staff does for you, and their focus is you and your congregations. But let me offer a few things. I may get through this now, or we may hold off and finish this up later at convention. First of all, I want to spotlight Paula, who clearly, as you know from today, does all things convention and helps with a lot of our major events. She also works with the church pension group in helping with benefits. She's our office administrator, which means she handles day-to-day operations here in the office. She is one of our many catch-alls when things need to be done. And I think you know that, as many of you contact Paula if you have questions. She's a great starting point. Second is Cindy. Cindy, who brings institutional history, has been here the longest and reminds us often of things that have happened in the past and how they relate to our current context. Her primary responsibilities is that she's our bookkeeper. She handles payroll, and she's also a catch-all for many congregations who have financial or bookkeeping questions. Jean Millian, who has really filled an important gap in between hiring of communications individuals. He brings us communication support. He helps with our weekly leadership news, also works behind the scenes at events like today's convention. Our canon missioners, Barbara and Melinda, I am just so grateful for their ministry, and both of them said yes to a call to something that was just being built, and we were learning what the roles might look like. They are quite supple in understanding how this may unfold over the next couple of years. First, I think you know that they are rectors in congregations. Melinda serves also at 2 congregations, a Lutheran congregation, so she's a pastor as well as a rector, and they provide local support and leadership, including pastoral care to the congregations of the convocations of which they serve. Transition ministry is an aspect that Melinda has assumed primarily. She came first. Barbara may take on aspects of that as we move forward. They mentor new clergy. They offer convocation leadership, crisis support, and the forever catch-all for them is efforts on behalf of the bishop. Oftentimes they may reach out on my behalf. You may send an email to me or call me, and I may really feel like Barbara and Melinda are the best ones to respond to that. Oftentimes you'll hear from them as well on my behalf. Steve, who oversees our financials as our CFO. He also serves as our COO, which means that there are some members of the staff who report to Steve directly. He leads the mission resources efforts of the diocese and also supports congregational leaders, works very closely with our lay leaders, especially around administrative and financial matters, and works also with clergy who are newly called to the diocese as we develop their new letters of agreement. Steve also provides oversight on behalf of the bishop. Sandy, many of you know Sandy is also a face to many of our online offerings. This is part of her catch-all of community engagement, where she works locally, and also her efforts with racial reconciliation. She, with Dale Granfield, lead our Racial Justice and Reconciliation Task Force, and she also provides day-to-day administrative support for the bishop. She works with our ecumenical partners as well. And then as a kind of a side ministry, she provides leadership at the new Latinx congregation at the Cathedral of the Nativity. Oftentimes, she is the go-to if you want to schedule a time to meet with the bishop. And I encourage you to reach out to Sandy. I hope that was helpful. I even more so hope I didn't miss anybody. That would be the end of me. We'll take a continued pause here and we'll come back.
We're good.
Ah, wonderful.
So
Thank you.
we are going to close the voting. And we are going back to you, Bishop, as we gather all the results together to display for you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Paula, and for everyone who voted. And while we're waiting for the votes to be compiled, I'm going to call on Elizabeth House, Treasurer, to come forward to present the Treasurer's report. Libby?
Good morning, everyone. This is a report on the Finance Committee on diocesan finances for the year 2021. The Finance Committee meets each month to review the financial statements and the other work that is concerning the financial affairs of the diocese and reports monthly to Council. The diocesan audit for the year ending December 31st, 2021 was completed by the accounting firm of Campbell, Rappel, and Eurosits in time to meet the September deadline. The audit was shared with Council at the September meeting and accepted as presented. The audit showed no irregularities in the financial reports and no difficulties in completing the audit, and the assets and liabilities increased for the year by $4 million. Between March of 2019 and March of 2020, the audit team members completed audits for 12 parishes and worked on 2 additional audits. Due to the pandemic, work was paused until June 15th of 2021. Then all the audits that were requested were done, and currently 7 audits are on the team's work schedule. And every audit that has been requested is underway. So if you need help with parish audits, the team would be pleased to assist. Please contact me and I'll get you in touch with the head of the audit team, our team leader, Joan McDonald. Diocesan audit workbook forms and instructions for conducting parish audits can be found on the diocesan website in the resources, then parish management section. Parishes are encouraged to form internal or intra-parish audit committees to perform internal audits using this published information. But virtual and in-person assistance from the audit team members is currently available on request. If there is sufficient interest expressed by parish finance leaders, financial and audit training will take place for those who enroll through a question and answer Zoom meeting, which is planned for this fall. 3 members of the audit team, plus Paula Lipinski of the diocesan offices, will be on hand to answer questions and provide insights. Also for this spring, the parish audit training is anticipated to take place at Gather 23. I would like to express my sincere thanks to our capable, experienced, all-volunteer audit team members, Joan McDonald, the chair, John Barnum, Jim Harding, Mark Shipman, and Eric Miller, who has just recently relocated out of the diocese. They have done wonderful work and are committed to this ministry. We're also seeking more auditors. Anybody with an accounting background who is interested in joining the team should contact me at ehhouse@yahoo.com. And training will be provided, and shadowing of experienced auditors will also be provided. The Finance Committee is committed to providing the following tools and resources to parishes to assist with budget planning: health insurance benefits plan information, assessment and acceptance information, CPIU for compensation, staff performance review, DIT information, investments, payout rate, performance, the auditor's workbook checklist, help with audits virtually or in person, support for basic accounting tools, support for accounting policies, support for ordering basic accounting materials, and support for completing parochial reports. Another committee is the Investments Committee, and it's led by the Reverend Charlie Barebow. It meets quarterly with Truist, which is the bank that handles our investments that was previously BB&T. The management team from Truist meets with us for a quarterly review of the diocesan parish investments. The investment team provides reports of the meetings to diocesan council through the Finance Committee. And then during each second quarter meeting, the committee reviews the prior 12 months performance, end of June to end of June, then determines the recommended DIT payout for the next year based on the portfolio performance over the past 5 years. And that then goes to council for approval. The allocation of funds in the DIT portfolio is currently 68% stocks, 27% bonds, and 5% cash. During the period of volatility experienced in 2022, our Truist team has taken a conservative approach, keeping more money in cash, about 3% higher than last year, and taking a defensive posture with regard to our portfolio, which has helped buffer returns on the downside. The total market value at the end of December 2021 for our DIT fund was $38,315,632. For last year, the DIT balance was up 14.4%. For 3 years, it was up 16.67%. For 5 years, it was up 12.69%. And since Truist, previously BB&T, began managing our portfolio on May 31st of 2016, the DIT was up 12.14% as of the end of 2021. During the current year, 2022, the DIT has lost 15% of its value when compared to the end of the fourth quarter of 2021. The payout rate is based on an average return of the last 5 years. The current adopted payout rate for 2022 is 4.5%, the same as in previous years. The diocese posts quarterly returns on the parish management section of the diocesan website. And for information about investing parish funds in the DIT, I would recommend that you contact the Reverend Charlie Barebow. In reviewing the end of the year financial report for 2021, we see that the total revenues stood at $1,219,541.56, or 83% of the budget, while total expenses stood at $11,901.01, or 67% of the budget. The diocese took none of the money that was budgeted to be drawn from the DIT, and almost all categories of spending came in below budget, accounting for a bottom line of $207,640.55, which was better than anticipated. Reduced expenses, as well as not drawing funds from the DIT for diocesan use, were intentional during a time of transition as the bishop and diocesan staff worked in partnership with congregations and various committees of the diocese, including the Finance Committee, to begin to create a financial plan to support strategic envisioning. Prudent use of resources called for a conservative approach, and necessary staffing and goals, objectives, and initiatives were put into place, as was the case in 22, and will continue moving forward. This approach has resulted in the current ability of the diocese to utilize funds conserved in the last few years to invest in the health of our parishes and growth and expansion of the ministries of the organization. The lower than budgeted draw on DIT funds was purposely conservative of financial resources. The actual expenses in many categories were intentionally lower than budgeted as plans were moving forward and restructuring was underway. During the present year, many of those plans, for example, the hiring of canon missioners for the northern and southern regions of the diocese, have been implemented.
Well, welcome back. Thank you, Libby. At this time, we're going to take a 10-minute break. So we look forward to seeing you in 10 minutes. Welcome back. At this time, we would like to announce the results of our General Convention ballots for clergy. On your screen, you'll see the results of our vote for General Convention. In order to be elected, a person must have a majority vote in both the cleric and lay orders. We'd like to congratulate those 4 who have been elected: Jane Arrington Bender, Rebecca Barnes, Midge Pendergast, and Timothy Allman. You'll see that they're also listed in terms of who the alternates will be. Typically, a first alternate also comes to convention, and others need to be available. As in years past, we found that there needs to be new alternates or new delegates named to convention, deputies, excuse me. This time, we'd also like to announce the results of our General Convention ballots for the lay order, where 2 have been elected: Kathy Bailey and Judith Dickerson. Given that we do not have 4 elected for the lay order, I invite Paula to come forward to offer additional instructions, as we'll have a second ballot. Paula?
Thanks, Bishop. Let me broadcast this and all right. So we are running a second ballot on VPoll. So you're going to go back to your VPoll screen, and we are running a second ballot for the lay order only. This time you will be selecting 2 from the remaining 4 deputies, not the 4 remaining nominees, Charles Dickerson, Jay Miller, Cynthia Norty, and Jana Norty. So you're going to go to your VPoll screen. You're going to choose 2 people. And just a reminder, once you've completed this, do not close your VPoll. We will be going back to VPoll yet again for another ballot later in today's convention. Okay, the voting will be closing. The voting is now closed. So we will go back to you, Bishop.
Thanks, Paula. At this time, we're going to move to our diocesan resolutions. The following are the procedures for presentation of diocesan resolutions. Each resolution is moved, discussed, and voted on before moving on to the next. If you would like to speak on a resolution, we'll ask that you use your raised hand feature. When you're called upon to speak, we will unmute you. Once you've been unmuted, please state your name, whether you're a clergy or a layperson, along with the parish and parish city, and whether you're looking to speak to the current resolution or move to amend a resolution. As a courtesy, we ask that if you're making a motion to amend a resolution, that you type it in the chat window, which can be found in the corner of the lower part of your screen. Resolution 1, the 2023 Clergy Salary Schedule. I recognize Libby House, Treasurer, to offer Resolution 1, 2023 Clergy Salary Schedule. Libby?
I offer Resolution 1, the 2023 Clergy Salary Schedule, as approved by the Finance Committee, to the Convention for approval. Resolution 2023 Clergy Salary Schedule. The type of resolution is the annual submission of the Clergy Salary Schedule to Diocesan Convention. The title and author of the resolution, the 2023 Clergy Salary Schedule, and the Finance Committee. The resolution: be it resolved that this convention recommends a minimum 8.5% cost of living salary increase for clergy and recommends consideration be made for additional merit increases as performance and resources allow. And be it resolved that the cash stipend range for 2023 will be as follows: Parish Index 1 to 99, cash stipend range 39,239 to 47,135. Parish Index 100 to 250, cash stipend range $43,453 to $64,254. Parish Index 251 to 399, cash stipend range $52,002 to $80,051. And 400 and above for the Parish Index, the cash stipend range is $70,178 to $113,628. Be it further resolved that this convention recommends consideration be made for providing an 8.5% cost of living increase for lay employees. Be it further resolved that this convention recommends consideration be made for additional merit increases for lay employees based on performance as resources allow. Be it resolved that the clergy supply schedule for 2023 be as follows: 1 service Saturday or Sunday, $120. 2 services Saturday or Sunday, $190. 3 services Saturday or Sunday, $215. 1 major service, Holy Week, Christmas, funeral, $160. Midweek service, $100. The sponsor was Diocesan Council. I would like to make a motion as suggested by the Resolutions Committee. The motion is to change the 3rd paragraph of the resolution to read: be it further resolved that this convention recommends a minimum 8.5% cost of living increase for lay employees and recommends consideration be made for additional merit increases for lay employees as performance and resources allow. I suggest this change. I move that this change be made.
Thank you. Thank you, Libby. Do we have a second for this motion?
Tom Edwards, from Nativity in Bethlehem. I second the motion.
Thank you, Tom. I invite Libby to speak to the amendment.
I suggested the change based on feedback that we received at the first pre-convention meeting to make equality in language between the clergy and the lay employees.
I open the floor for discussion on the amendment to Resolution 1. If you'd like to speak on an amendment, we ask that you use the raise hand feature. When you're called upon to speak, we will unmute you. Once you're unmuted, please state your name, whether you are clergy or a lay person, along with your parish and parish city. Please remember, we are only speaking on the amendment right now. I believe we have a raised hand. Is it Rebecca Barnes? Am I right, Steve? Nope. Go ahead. Give us a moment here. Steve, who's speaking to the resolution? Rebecca Barnes?
Donna Barnum, but I think she
Okay.
has,
Donna.
Donna put her hand down. I think Carly is next.
Okay, Carly. Go ahead, Carly, when you're able.
Thank you. Sorry, I just needed to unmute and start my video and all of that good stuff. I just had one question. If someone could remind me of last year's resolution of what the cost of living increase was last year, what the percent was.
Libby? Oh, you're unmuted. Thanks, Libby. Okay.
I think I read her lips and she said she didn't remember the exact amount.
Let's give her a moment to unmute herself. Libby, we're going to need you to unmute, or maybe you'll need to be unmuted. Give us a moment.
Okay. All right, there we are. I don't remember exactly. I recall that it was less than 2%. I believe it was 1.8%, something in that range.
All right, I think I have like 2.6 maybe, but either way, it was less than, let's say less than 3 for sake of argument. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Carly, before we send you away, would you please identify your parish?
Sure. Carly Greenwald, St. Gabriel's, Douglasville.
Thank you.
Sorry, I forgot that step.
Are there any other hands raised? Okay. All right, Carol, I believe you've raised your hand.
Yes. Hi. I'm Carol Keene. I'm lay person from St. Anne's in Trexlertown.
Okay.
I discussed some of this with fellow parishioners, and as much as we love our clergy and would like to give them the 8.5% increase, this seems really high compared to cost of living, what the laity who will have to support this in increased pledges and everything, so our churches continue to grow. This just seems way out of line with what laity is getting to help support this. Once we vote for the 8.5%, we can't go backwards. I mean, that's for forever, that increase goes to everyone, our lay support staff and clergy. And just how do we sustain that? Even if the diocese
Carol, I'm gonna, forgive me, but I'm gonna pause you right there because we're speaking right now to the resolution as amended. So we're speaking only to the amendment. I appreciate your insights and we'll invite you back when we speak to the resolution itself. So if you would just hold that, I'm gonna go back and ask Steve or Paula, do we have anyone who are raising their hands now to speak solely to the amendment? If you wish to speak to the resolution, you'll have an opportunity to do that after we vote on the amendment.
Go ahead, Dale.
Thank you, Steve. The Reverend Dale Granfield, the Church of the Mediator in Allentown. I just stand to speak in support of the amendment in the justice of making sure that we're thinking equitably between clergy and lay employees of our parishes. I stand in support. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. Are there others, Steve? Roland?
It's Roland Rose of Trinity Easton, lay person. I think that it made sense to strengthen the language, but that said, I even with the language strengthened, I don't think that it makes it compulsory for a parish that's facing a lot of hardship. That's why I'm in favor of it.
Thank you, Roland. Anyone else who wishes to speak to the amendment? All right, I believe that we're clear. So at this time, we will have a virtual vote. On your screen will be a simple voting poll with a yay or nay. Select yay if you're in favor of the amendment. Again, we are voting only on the amendment, or nay if you do not agree with the amendment. Please vote now. Voting is closing. Voting is now closed and the results will be posted on your screen. The motion carries, having 98 yay votes and 7 nay votes. So resolution 1 is amended. I now recognize Libby House to speak to the amended resolution. Libby?
I offer resolution 1 as amended, the 2023 salary schedule as approved by the Finance Committee to the convention and as amended by convention for approval. Resolution 2023 clergy salary schedule amended. The type of resolution is the annual submission of clergy salary schedule to Diocesan Convention. The title and author are the 2023 clergy salary schedule by the Finance Committee. The resolution is resolved that this convention recommends a minimum 8.5% cost of living increase for clergy and recommends consideration be made for additional merit increases as performance and resources allow. And be it resolved that the cash stipend range for 2023 will be as follows. Parish index 1 to 99, Cash stipend range, 39,239 to 47,135. Parish index, 100 to 250. Cash stipend range, 43,453 to 64,254. Parish index 251 to 399, 52,002 to 80,051 for the cash stipend range. Parish index 400 and above, cash stipend range 70,178 to 113,628. Be it further resolved that this convention recommends a minimum 8.5% cost of living salary increase for lay employees and recommends consideration be made for additional merit increases for lay employees as performance and resources allow. Be it further resolved that the clergy supply schedule for 2023 be as follows. 1 service Saturday or Sunday, $160. 2 services Saturday or Sunday, $190. 3 services Saturday or Sunday, $215. 1 major service, Holy Week, Christmas, funeral, midweek service, $100.
Thank you, Libby. I open the floor for discussion on resolution number 1, the 2023 salary schedule as amended. If you'd like to speak on the resolution, we'll ask that you use the raised hand feature. When you're called upon to speak, we will unmute you. Once you are unmuted, please state your name, whether you are clergy or lay, along with your parish and parish city, and whether you're looking to speak to the current resolution or move to amend the resolution. Paula or Steve, do we have any raised hands? Go ahead, Bev.
Hi, Bev Liani, St. Albans Sinking Spring layperson. With the salary increase, is this just at the parish level or is this also in the diocese?
This is at the diocesan level as well.
Okay, so it's the diocesan staff as well. Okay, and the budget is calculated with at least the 8.5% increase.
Correct.
Or, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Another question. Go ahead, Carly.
Can you give me a little more insight on where the number 8.5, how that number was reached?
Yes, that comes from the stipulation that in accordance with the CPIU increase for 12 months from March to March of each year, that the increase for this clergy salary will be determined as was set forth for all future adjustments to the clergy salary schedule by the 2016 Diocesan Convention. It stipulates the CPIU will be used for all clergy salary increases going forward from 2016 on.
Okay. So if I'm understanding, then there's some like catch up to do based on that, if we're looking back to 2016.
No, we've always done that. We've used the CPIU every year since 2017 for the salary increases. So as you were saying, last year it was around 2%. I think the average for the last 5 or 10 years has been around 2.5% or something like that. So it does vary depending upon the cost of living. But
right.
Because the CPIU from March of 2020 to March of 2021 came in at 8.5%, then what the convention decided in 2016, as has been our standard, is how we determined it to be 8.5%.
Okay.
Thank you,
You're
Carl.
welcome.
I think we have another hand raised. Thanks, Carol. Thank you for coming back. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just am having a hard time accepting an 8.5% increase in salaries across the board. That's everything, not just salaries, it's housing, it's Social Security, it's pensions, it's everything. I just don't know how our churches can sustain this when so many parishes are struggling to keep the lights on. It just seems out of line with what we've done historically. And the feds are raising interest rates. They're trying to slow down the cost of living increase. It just doesn't seem, I'd be appalled if Congress voted themselves an 8.5% increase. I don't know how we can do this for our churches. I'm just having a really hard time with this. If money is put, excess money is there, it seems like it should hire more people to grow our church, not just to increase salaries by 8.5%. I'm just struggling with this. Thank you.
I hear what you're saying, and I understand the struggle and your concern. It is quite a bit. As I stated, this is based on what the convention voted on and what has been our principle and how we have handled it. It is only a recommendation. There is no requirement here. Every parish will have to look at its own budget and its own resources to determine how it will handle these recommendations. They are simply recommendations. But I also want to mention that this year's budget includes an opt-in COLA grant fund in the amount of $100,000 to help parishes meet the financial burden that you spoke of that's been caused by this level of the cost of living increase, as has been recommended for just this year. The grant is open to all parishes that had salaried employees in 22 and will have salaried employees in 23. And it's meant to help with increases for both clergy and lay people for the coming year. No financial hardship will need to be demonstrated by the parish, but all funds, all $100,000 will be distributed to the parishes that apply. And the deadline to apply for this opt-in request will be December 1st, 2022.
Thanks. Thank you, Libby. Thank you, Carol. John Marcantonio is up next. John?
Yes, I share Carol's remarks, but and Carol, I think there's just two ways of looking at this, and having served on the finance committee, I saw this coming. On one hand, on face of it, it looks like, wow, they're really out of touch because giving is down, expenses are up, assessments are up. On the other hand, I think the way we look at this, again, it's a recommendation. I think it stands as a good witness, as a recommendation to seeing and feeling the pain of lay people in their salaries. So if it cannot be done, it's recommended. So I see this as not being out of touch, but as advocating for whatever we can do, whatever the church or parish can do to assist lay people in these difficult times.
Thank you, John. Canon Steve, do you have a comment?
Yeah, it's a general comment. There have been a few questions of a variety of people about what CPIU is. That is the Consumer Price Index, as calculated by the federal government. It indicates the cost of goods over a series of different commodities for the previous 12 months. And as Libby commented, the Consumer Price Index that we use is from March to March. Thanks, Bishop.
Thank you, Steve. Do we have others with their hands raised? Bruce, go ahead.
Yes, Bruce Gow, Christ Strasbourg clergy. I speak on supporting this as an act of, I do sympathize with our parishes and things that are going on financially in our nation and so forth, but it's also both for lay and clergy employees speaking to justice. I know for myself, even being new clergy, that just in the last few months, going grocery shopping for us or driving and so forth, with the cost of inflation, a third of my groceries now, I'm paying $200 or $300 a month more to live. So I think it's an act of justice for our employees across the board, not just clergy, to think about too. And hopefully in the future years that this would come down in the national, and so we can go back to those 1 or 2%, and hopefully praying that this is only a year or two thing. So thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. I believe we have another person with their hand raised. Go ahead. I believe it's Ann. Or Ann? Yep, Ann.
Hi, just very quickly, Ann O'Donnell from St. George's Church in Hellertown. Just to put it in perspective from a layperson's kind of a point of view, the projected Social Security COLA for the year is 8.8%. So we are fully in line here with the reality of what is happening in the world, and to support what Bruce said, the justice of it. So that's just my 2 cents. So thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Any other raised hand? I believe Rick has raised their hand. Go ahead, Rick. Oh, you're not unmuted. We may need can we give Rick a hand?
I got it.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
One of the other aspects of this economy with salary increases or not increases is that other places are, to keep good employees, you need to actually match what other institutions are doing in the country and in the valley. And excuse me, I know a lot of people who aren't getting the raises they want from where they're currently working, and they're finding it other places and moving on. And it's kind of that way, I think, also in the clergy. So if you want to keep your people, you're going to have to pay them, or else they'll move someplace else because somebody else will.
Can you identify your parish, please?
Trinity Bethlehem.
Thank you. Thanks, Rick. Give another moment for comments or questions. All right, thank you. At this time, we'll have a virtual vote. On your screen will be a simple voting poll with a yay or nay. Select yay if you're in favor and nay if you're not. We're voting on resolution number 1 as amended. Please vote now. Voting is closing. Voting is now closed. The results will be posted on your screen. The motion carries, having 90 voted yay and 19 nay votes. Resolution number 1 as amended is adopted. At this time, we're going to show the results from our second lay ballot. I believe we have elected a third member. Jay Miller has been elected, but we are still in need of one additional lay deputy. So I'm going to call upon Paula at this time. Paula?
Hello again, good folk. Hope you're all hanging in there and sticking with us. So we are going to run another ballot here. And again, we're going to be voting for one person. The ballot is open. So you're going to go back to your VPoll screen. You should see a ballot for that's got 3 nominees on it: Charles Dickerson, Cynthia Norty, and Jana Norty. You are going to select one person, only one person. This is for the last seat on the lay deputation for General Convention. So go ahead and vote for that one person on the VPoll screen. And again, I'm reminding you to please not close VPoll once you are done, as we will be coming back to it a bit later. Just a few more moments here. We still have a few people that are voting. Okay, the voting will be closing. And the voting is now closed. Bishop, we are going back to you.
Thank you, Paula. We now move to Resolution 2, the budget of the Diocese of Bethlehem. And I recognize Libby House, Treasurer, to present the 2023 budget. Libby?
Thank you, Bishop. The following is a presentation of the 2023 budget approved by Diocesan Council. Our budgeting process begins in the spring. Revenue estimates are based on historical data. The Finance Committee of Council creates a draft for Council. Then Council approves the budget and sponsors a budget resolution for Convention. And the budget is presented at Convention for adoption. The underlying principles in creating this budget are: the 2023 budget is $1,763,596.65, and it is greater in both numbers and in support for parishes over that of the 2022 budget, which was $1,598,658.21. While recent budgets have been intentionally underused during a period of transition and preparation, making increased financial resources available for a vision and strategy that the bishop, the standing committee, diocesan council, and diocesan committees have put into place. Starting with 2022, many aspects of those plans came into fruition. For example, the canon missioners for the North and the South, those people have been hired and they have begun their work in their respective regions. The bishop, the standing committee, and diocesan council have continued to prioritize investing in congregations, mission, and ministries, and in staffing needed to support these efforts. And the finance committee, through the creation and approval of the 2023 budget, has empowered their vision, goals, and strategies. Budget revenues have varied over the past several years. Assessment income varies annually as parish income on parochial reports change from year to year. The rate for assessment income for the 2022 operating budget, $980,272.92, reflects 12% of normal operating income in the 2021 parochial report, as has been the rate in the 2022 budget and in the previous years. Assessment relief, later found in this expense category under ministry, mission, and parish life, provides $50,000 to allow for a process by which parishes may apply for assessment relief when needed. Acceptance income, which consists of estimated voluntary contributions by parishes, amounts to $98,027.09 for 2023, slightly more than the 2022 budget figure. Estimated acceptance income was also utilized in creating the 2022 budget and previously. Supplemental revenues beyond assessment and acceptance income required to balance the budget in 2023 will come from 4 sources: making use of the full 4.5 draw from the diocesan funds and the DIT approved by council, utilization of cash reserves accumulated in the DIT from the past 3 years when resources were underutilized. We're taking 248,000 of the more than 700,000 that we have accumulated over the last several years. The use of bishop-directed funds to pay for 1/3 of the canon missioner positions. And we are in a period of financial strength and stability from which to be able to invest in the parishes of the diocese. The 2023 budget, which is balanced, is $164,938.36 greater than the 2022 budget. In comparing budget expenditures for 23 against 22, we noticed several categories in which expenses have increased. As I mentioned, increases in salaries and benefits for 2023 are accounted for primarily by supporting the positions of canon ministers for the North and for the South for the full year, the addition of a minister for communications, and the 8.5% COLA increases to staff. The CPIU actually increased beyond March to 9.1%. The addition of the Diocesan 2023 COLA grant fund in the amount of $100,000 to support parishes. This grant makes up 100,000 of the 163,000 of increases in the budget over the last year. That's the opt-in fund that I mentioned that's available to help parishes with regard to salary increases this year. An anticipated increase in the Diocesan Convention cost for 2023. Some of these increases are offset by decreases in the lines for conventions and meetings. There will be no general convention or Lambeth conference in 23. And in administrative services for temporary staff, a category which had included a communications consultant and a consulting minister for convocations in 2022. This slide describes the differences in budget expenses. As previously mentioned, increases in salaries and benefits expense in 2023 consist of staff increases and the cost of COLA increases. Increase in ministry, mission, and parish life expenses is primarily comprised of $100,000 in 2023 COLA grants, a one-time opt-in fund to support parishes with employees that determine they require support to meet COLA salary increases for both clergy and lay employees. A decrease in administrative services cost in 2023 reflects a need for less temporary staff and less staff travel. In 2022, this category included a communications consultant and the consultant missioner for convocations, as previously mentioned, and a decrease in meetings and convention costs in 2023. It's important to note the combined power of the four funds totaling $260,000, which are available to help parishes meet their financial obligations, build their communities and ministries, and thrive. The mission resource grants provide $85,000 to help parishes that launch new ministries for the benefit of their communities and awarded based on their application and the needs that are addressed. Assessment adjustment grants provide $50,000 in funds to qualified parishes that apply for relief in their assessments due to demonstrated financial strain. COLA grants provide $100,000 for one-time opt-in grants for parishes that determine they need help for clergy and staff increases in light of the high cost of living and related salary increases that were recommended for this year. All those requesting funds by the December 1st deadline will receive a share of the $100,000, which will be expended by January 1st. There will be no need to demonstrate financial hardship, but a parish must have had salaried clergy or lay employees in 2022 and plan to have the same in 2023 to qualify. Ministry fellowships provide $25,000 for parishes across the diocese that collaborate with one another in ministry. Examples would be Creation Care, Latinx faith communities, youth, young people formation, and feeding programs that support shared priorities. When you're looking at your budgets, please take a look at these funds and see how they can be of help and how they can help your parish to grow. These slides show side by side the budget for 22 and the budget for 2023. Increased revenues in 23 are accounted for by making use of the full 4.5% draw from the diocesan funds in the DIT as approved by council. Use of a portion of more than $700,000 in cash reserves accumulated during past years when resources were intentionally underused. The use of bishop-directed funds to support the northern and southern canon missioner positions, and other resources. Increased expenses are accounted for by additional staffing costs and the addition of the new opt-in COLA grant fund for parishes with salaried employees in 22 in the amount of $100,000. New expenses are offset in part by reduction expenses for administration and travel, conventions, and meetings. Both the Finance Committee and Council recognize that challenging burdens will continue through 2023 for parishes. With this budget, the diocese will do its best to support parishes as generously and as fairly as is possible. We are investing in people and in ministries aimed to help build up the beloved community. We urge parishes to take advantage of all these funds to help with assessment relief, salary increases, new ministry, and parish partnerships. The budget is balanced at $1,763,596.65. A great amount of thought, time, and effort has gone into the creation of this budget. The increased budget over 2022 in both dollars and in support for parishes has been outlined. Utilizing the full 4.5% draw from the DIT and a fraction of accumulated cash reserves totaling $700,000 from previous years, as well as restricted DIT funds as part of the plan. Investing in the diocese and parishes through added personnel and financial support through the mission resource grants, assessment adjustment grants, 2023 COLA grants, and ministry fellowships. There is an intentional focus on additional development of new parish partnership ministries in racial justice and reconciliation, convocations, ministry fellowships, and community mission support. We will continue to practice good stewardship. The budget is balanced. Our objective is to help parishes thrive, and our goal is achieving sustainability for both our individual parishes and the entire diocese.
Thank you, Libby. I now open the floor for discussion on Resolution 2, the 2023 diocesan budget. If you'd like to speak on the resolution, we will ask that you use the raise hand feature. When you're called upon to speak, we will unmute you. Once you are unmuted, please state your name, whether you are clergy or lay, along with your parish and parish city, and whether you're looking to speak to the current resolution or move to amend a resolution. Paula or Steve, do I have any hands raised?
Bishop, the floor appears to be clear.
Thank you. There are no further questions at this time. We will have a virtual vote. On your screen will be a simple voting poll with a yay or nay. Select yay if you're in favor, nay if you're not. Please vote. Voting is closing. Voting is now closed and the results will be posted on your screen. The motion carries, having received 100 yay votes and 4 nay votes. Resolution 2 is adopted. At this time, we're going to show the results from our latest ballot. There may not be much to show. I don't think we elected anyone, did we, Paula?
Unfortunately, Bishop, we did not.
Okay, so we need to have another vote. Paula, lead us.
All right, once again, we are returning to the vpoll.mobi screen on your web browser. The poll is open. We are again voting for one person. From the list of nominees, Charles Dickerson, Cynthia Norty, and Jana Norty. Rick, do you have a question?
Yes, Rick.
Yes, could you just show us who's already been elected? People who have already been elected?
In the lay order, yes. We have Jane Miller, and we have Judy Dickerson, and we have Kathy Bailey.
Okay, thank you.
And as we are voting, I'm reminding you once again to not close the vPoll module, as we will be returning there for another vote. Okay, we will be closing the voting. And the vote is now closed. As we gather these together, Bishop, will go back to you.
Thanks, Paula. We are going to take a 10-minute break at this time, and then we will return for resolution number 3. See you soon. Welcome back. At this time, we're going to post the results of our most recent ballot as well. Just want you to take a look. We still have not elected our final deputy. You can see the numbers there. We need 33 in the lay order and 17 in the clergy order. So Cynthia is close to receiving those votes. We're going to have another vote here. We encourage, if you did not vote previously, we really need everyone to vote at this time. So I'm going to turn it over to Paula. Paula?
Welcome back again. So we are running out to vPoll on your web browser, and we are going to have our 5th ballot, which is open. Again, we are voting for 1 deputy for the lay order of the General Convention. Our options are Charles Dickerson, Cynthia Norte, and Jana Norte. So please pick one and hit submit. And again, I'm reminding you to leave your vPoll ballot open. All right, at this time, it looks like we'll be closing the ballot. And the ballot is now closed, and we'll go back to the bishop.
Thanks, Paula. We now move to Resolution 3, the amendment to the canons of the Diocese of Bethlehem. And I recognize Linda Henry, Chair of the Constitutions and Canons Committee, to present Resolution 3, amendment to the canons of the Diocese of Bethlehem.
Thank you, Bishop. The Committee for Constitution and Canons moves that the following resolution be approved by this convention. And that would be that Title III, Canon 2, Section 2B, which currently reads that several members are ex officio members of diocesan council, be amended to remove the words chancellor and the chancellor, and then there is a grammatical reference to the treasurer. And the effect of this amendment to the canons is to remove the chancellor as a voting member of diocesan council. And as explanation for that, the canons state that the chancellor is the legal advisor to many different committees within the diocese, diocesan council, but also standing committee, the bishop, and the various committees of convention. It therefore presents a conflict should one of those bodies, the diocesan council, have the chancellor as a voting member. Also, the chancellor does provide legal advice, canonical advice, and it is not appropriate for the chancellor to vote on perhaps matters that are requiring their advice. The chancellor would still be able to attend and still be able to speak at any of the diocesan committee meetings as required, simply that they would not be a voting member. Therefore, the committee moves that this resolution be approved by this convention.
Thank you, Linda. I open the floor for discussion on Resolution 3, the amendment to the canons of the Diocese of Bethlehem. If you'd like to speak on this resolution, we'll ask that you use your raised hand feature. When you're called upon to speak, we will unmute you. Once you're unmuted, please state your name, whether you're clergy or lay, along with your parish and parish city. Whether you're looking to speak to the current resolution or move to amend the resolution? Do we have any hands raised?
There are none.
All right. At this time, we'll have a virtual vote. On your screen will be a simple voting poll with a yay or nay. Select a yay if you're in favor and nay if you're not. Please vote. Voting is closing. Voting is now closed. The results are posted on your screen. The motion carries, having received 102 yay votes and 0 nay votes. Resolution 3 is adopted. And we're going to move back to Paula.
Sorry, Bishop, I failed to bring you the results. So we do have our final ballot. Sandy's going to display that for you, and you should be able to see our results.
All right, so Cynthia Norrie has been elected. Thank you.
And then we do have a slide with okay, no, sorry, that's it.
Thank you. I want to remind convention and also for those elected and those may not have been elected that we will surely need their insights, and as in years past, alternate deputies have been needed to replace oftentimes deputies. So thank you again, and thank you for putting your names forth. At this time, we're going to move to Resolution 4, Amendment to the Constitution of the Diocese of Bethlehem. And I once again recognize Linda Henry, Chair of the Constitutions and Canons Committee. Linda?
I'm looking for an unmute button.
You're
I'm already unmuted. Excellent. Resolution 4 is a resolution that is to amend the Constitution of the Diocese of Bethlehem. It moved the Committee on Constitution and Canons moves that this convention approve the following resolution, that Article 4 of the Constitution, which currently reads as is on the screen, be amended to change the words "at the discretion of the bishop" and to change the words "shall" to "may" at the end of the sentence. The reason for this resolution is that the decision to hold Holy Communion at convention should be made at the direction of the spiritual leader of the diocese, which is the bishop. It is not an appropriate matter for regulation by the Constitution, and this amendment clarifies that this decision is at the discretion of the bishop. Therefore, the Constitution and Canons Committee moves that this 151st convention approve this resolution. I would note that it needs to be approved by 2 successive conventions to be effective, and that it does require to be approved by both orders. So it requires a vote by orders.
Thank you, Linda. I open the floor for discussion on Resolution 4, the amendment to the Constitution of the Diocese of Bethlehem. If you'd like to speak on this resolution, ask once again that you use the raised hand feature. If you're called upon to speak, We will unmute you, and once you're unmuted, please state your name, whether you are clergy or lay, along with your parish and parish city, whether you're looking to speak to the current resolution or move to amend a resolution. Do we have any hands raised?
The floor is clear, Bishop.
Thank you, Paula.
Oh. We're good.
Since the resolution is an amendment to the Constitution, it needs to be voted on by orders. And I call upon Paula to walk through this vote. Paula?
Okay, so one final time, we are going to head out to the vPoll website on your browser, web browser. There is a poll that is open that says, do you agree with resolution number 4, amendment to the Constitution of the Diocese of Bethlehem? And your choices are yay or nay. So just select your yay or nay vote. Okay, so we are getting ready here to close this ballot. The ballot is now closed. This is a vote by order, so we will need to pull these results, and we will be back to you in a moment. And back to you, Bishop.
Thank you, Paula. While we're waiting for the results to be pulled from the vPoll platform, I'd like to call your attention to the proposed changes to the Episcopal Church's Constitution and canons from General Convention, as well as General Convention resolutions. These proposed changes and resolutions are available on the diocesan website at the link that is now in your Zoom chat. I'm going to have Canon Steve help me to demonstrate the navigating to the General Convention resolutions. Under the About section, you would click Diocesan Convention, and the link you'll look for proposed changes to the Constitution and canons from General Convention and resolutions referred out to the diocese from General Convention at the top of the page. If you have any questions in finding these or questions about the resolutions, we ask that you please contact Paula post-convention. We'll just pause now until Paula is ready to display the results from the vPoll vote.
So we'll come back to it.
We're going to take just a short break here as we need a little bit more time. Why don't we come back in 5 minutes? Welcome back. We will now display the results of the vote. In the clergy order, 29 yay votes, 5 nay votes, and in the lay order, 60 yay votes and 4 nay votes. Having been approved by a majority of each order at this convention, the resolution shall lie over to the next annual convention for a second vote. At this time, we will move to resolution number 5, seeking a study of the potential reunification of the Diocese of Central Pennsylvania and the Diocese of Bethlehem. At this time, I recognize Reverend Earl Trigar, representative of the Standing Committee, to present resolution number 5. Earl?
Thank you, Bishop. On behalf of the Standing Committee, I'd like to present to you Resolution 5, seeking study of a potential reunification of the Diocese of Central Pennsylvania and the Diocese of Bethlehem. Resolved, the Diocese of Bethlehem concurs and agrees to enter into a period of intentional exploration with the Diocese of Central Pennsylvania of their future reunification as one diocese, and may be further resolved that this exploration be conducted by both bishops, supported by a discernment committee of 10 additional people, comprised of 2 chancellors, 2 members of the standing committees, 2 members of diocesan council, and 2 at-large members from each diocese, selected by each diocese standing committee, with equal representation from each diocese. And be it further resolved that the bishops be authorized to engage an outside consultant to assist the discernment committee with this process. And be it further resolved that the discernment committee will explore opportunities in the areas of general operations, formation, finance, pastoral care, stewardship, social justice ministries, staffing, and children and youth ministry, as well as the gifts, strengths, and priorities of each diocese. And this discernment committee will consider a plan for full reunification, as well as any interim sharing of resources, and if feasible, seek to provide a draft timetable for those efforts. And be it further resolved that this committee will report its findings quarterly to each standing committee, and at the 2023 convention of each of the 2 dioceses, it will be further resolved that each diocese will contribute an equal amount, but no diocese shall contribute more than $25,000 in the time frame between the approval of this resolution and the diocese's next diocesan convention to accomplish this work. In explaining this resolution, until 1904, the Diocese of Central Pennsylvania and the Diocese of Bethlehem were historically united as one diocese under the name the Diocese of Central Pennsylvania, prior to the founding of the Diocese of Harrisburg and Bethlehem. With the approval of each convention and the ecclesiastical authorities, the Constitution, Article 5 of the Episcopal Church and Canon 1.10.6 through 7 allows for the reunification of dioceses. We are one family in Christ, and the resilience and health of the Church, as well as its mission, is strengthened through greater comity, collaboration, and shared resources. I submit on behalf to move of the Standing Committee to move for approval of this resolution. Resolution number 5.
Thank you, Earl. At this time, I'd like to share with you a short video of a conversation between me and Bishop Audrey Scanlon, the Bishop of the Episcopal Diocese of Central Pennsylvania.
Hello, my name's Audrey Scanlon. I'm the Bishop of the Episcopal Diocese of Central Pennsylvania, and I'm here today with my friend Bishop Kevin Nichols of the Diocese of Bethlehem. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Audrey. It's so good to be with you.
It's good to be with you. And we are making a little video to put on both of our diocesan websites because we want to talk with you today about a resolution that will be coming to my convention in the Diocese of Central Pennsylvania and to your convention, Kevin, in the Diocese of Bethlehem, as we begin to explore some very exciting work. So let me talk a little bit about the resolution that you can see on your websites. And then Kevin, we're going to have you talk a little bit about why we would be interested in pursuing this work. The resolution is titled "A Resolution Seeking Study of a Potential Reunification of the Diocese of Central Pennsylvania and the Diocese of Bethlehem." And so once upon a time, way up until the year 1904, I think, the Diocese of Central Pennsylvania and the Diocese of Bethlehem, we were one together. The Diocese of Central Pennsylvania pulled away and became the Diocese of Harrisburg. And then the Diocese of Central Pennsylvania decided they really wanted to become the Diocese of Bethlehem. And so we took that name back, and we've been apart, but close to each other in terms of our geographic relationship with each other all that time. And so here we are, and we are beginning to look around at trends in the church and say, what would it be like if we just thought about exploring the possibility of a reunification, of dipping our toe into the water of discovery and just looking at what that might mean for us. So that's the genesis of this resolution. I'm wondering, Kevin, if you could maybe tell us about why we would even consider doing this.
Thanks, Audrey. Just a couple of points. One, and I think we've been walking through this for some time. Reunification is it's better stewardship. When you look at our current model of being diocese, it's rather expensive. We pull more resources away from the local community and from ministry, vital ministry that folk are doing in their communities. And coming together, I believe, will free up funds for mission and ministry, and will help us in aiding building up our congregations and building the kingdom. And we do this, while there's agency. It's not a reactive response and urgent need, but it really allows for a more thoughtful and reasoned shift. And there's a time for experimentation as well. And then the second thing I'd offer is, I think the spirit is in this. We've already kind of walked this together as two dioceses. We have already begun to share and collaborate and learn from one another. And when I speak to clergy leaders, there's holy energy around engaging new plantings, instead of having to survive or tend to old and wild vines. This gives us an opportunity to really focus on those places where our heart is, whether it's virtual worship or feeding ministries or ecumenical partnerships or racial justice, building the beloved community. I think this allows us to enter more deeply into what God's calling us to be.
So what do you think some of the areas of exploration would be as we go about this work? I know that we've set the timetable of a year for us to form a committee with representation from both dioceses to do some focused work, but what are the areas that we would be exploring?
So here's a couple of thoughts, and I think it's open-ended. There's great curiosity among the people of our diocese, but we could explore opportunities for enhanced collaboration. What are the ways in which we can do new things together? We can identify, where there's thriving ministry and where there's barriers as well. Where we come together might shift our landscapes. We can, consider stewardship models and resources and how to collaborate in that. There's good opportunities on both sides, and I think we really can just listen to each other with a curiosity, with a love, with a respect for one another that I believe will lead us to where God is calling us to build something new, something that we never dreamed of or imagined.
I've heard you say that before.
Yeah, it's unfolding.
Yeah, that's cool.
So Audrey,
what do you think some of the things are that we might discover in this? What, I know it's looking ahead a little bit, but what do you think we might discover?
Well, one of the things that I love about this, Kevin, is that we don't know. And for the last 2 or 3 years now in the Diocese of Central Pennsylvania, we've been exploring our life together as a diocese with a series of experiments and saying, we don't know what's going to happen, but we do know that if we are faithful, God will reveal something to us. And so I don't want to second guess God, but let me suggest to you that I think that we might find that we are pretty compatible. We came from the same family. So I think that we might discover areas of compatibility. I think we might find that some of the mission work that we're doing, us in Central Pennsylvania, you in Bethlehem, is really common mission that could be strengthened through partnerships. I think we might discover, you and I have already talked about this, that there's what we call some low-hanging fruit, things that are kind of no-brainers. Like, why don't we have one disciplinary board for both dioceses? Because we don't, thank goodness, use them that often, but when we do, they need to be people that are dedicated and well-trained. So I think we're going to find there's some easy things that we can try on. And I think the other thing we're going to discover, because I already know this about my diocese, is how big it is, how long it takes to drive. And I think and how beautiful it is. We live in such a beautiful place. So I would love to share with you some of the beautiful spots here. And when I say beautiful, yeah, I mean rivers and valleys and mountains, but I mean people too. And I'm guessing you have some of that as well.
Thank you. We do. And as you were walking through that, I was thinking about our new canon missioner model. The notion of having regional missioners, which brings leadership away from one centralized location into the valleys and the hamlets. And really what a wonderful model that is that we're exploring just now in the Diocese of Bethlehem, and I know it's been fruitful around the church. So I couldn't agree more. We have much to learn from one another, and I can't wait to see what God has in store.
Me too. And again, this is a resolution seeking a study of a potential reunification. This is hardly a done deal. It's a year of study, of exploring, discovery, and we'll see what God brings to us, right?
Amen.
Let me close us with a prayer. How would that be?
Please.
I like the prayer for the mission of the church from our prayer book. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray. Ever living God, whose will it is that all should come to you through your Son, Jesus Christ. Inspire our witness to him, that all may know the power of his forgiveness and the hope of his resurrection, who lives and reigns with you in the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen.
Amen.
Kevin, thanks so much, and we'll see you soon.
Blessings. Thanks, Audrey.
Bye.
So at this time, I would like to open the floor for discussion on Resolution 5, seeking study of a potential reunification of the Diocese of Central Pennsylvania and the Diocese of Bethlehem. Once again, if you'd like to speak on this resolution, we'll ask that you use your raise hand feature. When you're called upon to speak, we will unmute you. Once you're unmuted, please state your name, whether you are clergy or layperson, along with your parish and parish city, whether you're looking to speak to the current resolution or move to amend a resolution. Go ahead, Bev.
Hello, Bev from St. Albans again. Do we happen to have a map that shows us the two dioceses side by side, just so we have an idea?
That's a great question. I don't know if we necessarily have a map. I think it's about 160 miles east and west and about the same north and south. If somebody can find a map before we're done here today, we'll gather that for you. What I would also offer, the geography piece is one that's been asked about in our pre-convention gatherings as well. As I think some of you know, there are dioceses across the landscape that are quite large. The Diocese of Colorado, which would be about 4 times the size of the land mass that we're talking about in a reunification. Nebraska is about 3 times the size. Maine, which I'm a little bit more familiar with, we would be about 1/3 smaller than the geography of the Diocese of Maine. And to put it kind of in equal terms, it's just about the size of New Hampshire and Vermont. Don't know if that's helpful, but it's the middle swath of the state of Pennsylvania, with the exception of the Diocese of Pennsylvania, which is really the surrounding areas of Philadelphia.
How many parishes are in the central?
Great question. On the books for each diocese, we state that there are 60 congregations, so it'd be a coming together. In reality, and we see in the next couple of years, those numbers to be closer to 50 congregations in each diocese. So you're looking at a diocese with about 100 congregations.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Bev. Go ahead, Ken.
Thank you, Bishop. Ken Grieshaber, Trinity Church Bethlehem lay person. So I listened here, of course, and then also last time I've seen the video. And I guess to me, it seems like it's all about cost. And if it is about cost, then let's talk about that and make that the front and center issue. And if that's the case, then so be it. But when you go beyond that, I struggle to see any, quite frankly, positives because of the distance, basically doubling the size. I just quickly looked on, I did a search and basically used Wikipedia, whether that's right or not. But to be consistent, you look at Nebraska, for example, it's a bigger area, but they only have 52 congregations. And I believe if we merged, we'd be roughly 120. So
100.
I don't know if that's a great comparison, but then again, Colorado is about 1.5 times in terms of a lot more area, but in terms of congregation, about 1.5 times. And I don't know that it would be interesting to know if they're performing well. Essentially, if this is about getting better, so to speak, is there any evidence that bigger is better? Because we know the area issues. If you're able to visit today a congregation roughly every 1.5 years, then that means the new bishop, whoever it is, you or whoever, can probably only visit a congregation once every 3 years. Just looking at the numbers, because you've got that many congregations to deal with. So, and then some of the other sharing seems like things you could do whether we're united or not. So I guess I'm a little confused. If it comes back to saying we have to do it for cost reasons, so be it. And I understand that's the way of the world. But if the other benefits to me seem very, very sketchy, I can't really understand them. But thank you. That's my comments.
Great. I'm going to hold off and offer comments after a few more speak. Who do we have next? Go ahead, Jane.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My concern is about the way the committee is to be selected, the 10 members. It seems rather top-heavy to me that standing committee and diocesan council will be in charge of selecting who is going to, either the people will be from those two bodies or they will select the at-large. Is there a different way of doing it that would involve more diverse, both racially, gender, age, all that committee. It just seems very top heavy.
Thanks. Let me just offer Jane a couple of thoughts to that. First of all, this is what you would consider to be the steering committee. I anticipate that this body is going to charge additional bodies to work kind of under the leadership of the steering committee, but to work closely with them that would be made up of what you're hoping for, which is a diverse body. I can assure you that the members of the standing committee, as they select the 2 at-large members to form the standing committee, will be looking at questions of diversity in terms of what are the needs for that particular steering committee. I think the thought was initially for this body to be smaller, so that would give it a little bit of flexibility, but I can surely envision that more members across the diocese would need to participate in this to share their gifts and talents. So thank you for raising that. I think I would also add that that this initial time of gathering, I go back to one of the comments that Doug Moyer, who wishes he could be here today, stated, was that, as we look to other landscapes, we look, for example, to the 3 dioceses in Wisconsin, who are ahead of us in this exploration. They created a website. You can go to the Diocese of Eau Claire, of Milwaukee and Fond du Lac, and you'll see that they've got a website that shows a number of learnings and discoveries that their committees have done to kind of expand the leadership of this. And we've learned from other places like Eastern and Western Michigan about ways in which to possibly walk forward today. I think this is open. We'll take your body, council, as an important leader in this as well. Somebody once asked me how often council would be informed of this, and it would be monthly, because there would be reportings back every time council gathers. So I think the steering committee probably is about the right size, but you can be assured that others will be involved, and we need yours and other voices in this process. Who's next?
Hi, Rick Weaver from Trinity Bethlehem. I'd just like to go back to what Ken said in terms of what do you perceive as the benefit to us as an individual parish and the members of that parish with this merger that you're talking about. And also, I just want to make a comment that it seems like this exploration committee already pretty much has decided that this is what it's going to be. And we're just looking for, process for doing it, not whether or not it should be done. I don't really feel like this is, gee, we're going to look at this and see whether it's going to happen. It's more like we're going to look at this and see how we're going to make it happen. But on a personal level, in terms of a parish, how is this going to benefit us? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I just want to remind everyone that part of the reason why next year's convention, we shared this when we had the pre-convention gatherings, will be in person, is because that we anticipate that to be a time for individuals to further discuss and discern what's kind of been brought forth during this past year. Convention would have to vote on this. You would have a say in terms of whether or not to move forward or not. But let me speak to the benefits for the congregation. It goes back to our first question in terms of, is this all about finances and resources? The reality currently is the 2 dioceses have a budget combined of about 3.6 million, each diocese spending about $1 million on staffing. So the reality is that, yes, there would be savings not only across the board in terms of shared leadership. You wouldn't need to have 2 positions in each diocese, but there would also be savings in other areas, like not having 2 conventions or not having a leadership school that's only being supported by 1 diocese. So there would be potential cost savings, and that could go back to parishes either in shifting the assessment rate which would provide more resources back into the community, or also possibly sharing more grants and resources. But that would all be discovered. That's part of what this period of looking at those realities. I can tell you that the body who would be gathering, the steering committee, in essence, would obviously be pulling financial leaders among both dioceses to speak about those questions, and asking parishes at the congregational level, where are the areas that they need additional resources. So I think you would see savings there, but I think it's more of the overlap. It's the way in which we live and function, quite frankly, as dioceses in the Episcopal Church, because we live as siloed entities. Actually, the only time we're even required to talk together is when we come to General Convention. And quite frankly, as we ask congregations to say what makes the most sense moving forward in terms of our valuable resources, I think this is an opportunity to look at our resources and say, how are we to best use them? The last point I'll make, and then we'll move on to the next speaker, is just the reality is that the landscape is shifting before us. We don't know what it's going to look like 4 years from now. But this particular resolution speaks to trying to develop a future plan. We may never utilize it, but we'll have it available to us so that we won't have to act out of urgency. Who's next?
Hello again. This is Carol Keene, laity from St. Anne's in Chestertown. Prior to your coming, Bishop Kevin, we lived through a merged diocese, essentially, with Bishop Sean Rowe. He was awesome. He was young and vibrant, and he created a wonderful community with two dioceses. He was incredible. I was on the council at the time. I was on the Evangelism Commission at the time, and it seemed though like it was still, we couldn't wait till we were separate in a way so that we had our own bishop, and he could go back to his homescape. I understand he now has two dioceses again, but just thinking of that, and we were shared and we did learn a lot, but there was also the hope of having our own bishop, our own geographic home, people looking after us, so to speak. Right. We hired all these new people in the diocese. Would they lose their jobs? There's concern for that. So merging things has benefits, I'm sure, but it's nice to have you in our own little diocese here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Carol. Well, I'll tell you, that warms my heart. And quite frankly, that's been the reality across the church. Is the only time we've really looked at these moments has been either at the end of a bishop's tenure or when we're in crisis. And I think the hope here is that we can do some of that discovery before it's urgent. Again, I want to go back to Reverend Moyer, who spoke about his time working in Eau Claire and Fond du Lac in Wisconsin. He wondered aloud to the standing committee, and I think also to council, as to what things would have looked like if they had not waited till this last urgent moment. And those three dioceses are at a place, quite frankly, where they don't have any other options. So we're trying to be open and proactive, and also, Carol, to celebrate all that we've accomplished in these last 4 years. And I hope that this is a moment. We'll see, maybe not. And in terms of the staff, I think there would be careful discernment about what are the staff needs on both dioceses. So I'm not as concerned about individuals losing their jobs or their livelihood. I think we'd be quite cautious and careful to make sure that all are cared for. Tim?
Ah, there we go. Okay. Tim Alleman, rector of St. Stephen's Pro Cathedral and rector of Holy Cross in Wilkes-Barre. The thought that's going through my mind, and I am in support of this, is I am the rector of two parishes, but I'm also deeply mindful of the fact that I am clergy canonically resident in a diocese. And so my role is bigger than just the two parishes. And I'm also mindful of the fact that we've been talking for some time now in recent history about the need to overcome this sense of the diocese as them and parish as us. And so I with all due respect, I don't know that I don't think this is the time to come into this conversation with the mindset of, well, how does this benefit us as a parish? I think the real question is, let's approach this study with, how does this benefit us as diocese? And we'll see. But the only way we'll see is if we enter into this with the mindset of, there's nothing predetermined, there's nothing preset. We're going to walk together and figure this out together. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Who's next? Go ahead, Jay.
Hi, Bishop. It's Jay O'Rear, clergy at Grace Episcopal in Honesdale. So what I'm hearing is a lot of operational benefits, and even this sort of discussion of, parish versus diocese, the benefits that accrue seem very operationally based. And I'm wondering what discussions are happening around each diocese priorities. For example, ours, vibrant congregations, and especially racial justice and reconciliation. How is the vision for what the dioceses are doing in their towns and cities aligning beyond just an operational perspective?
Thanks, Jay. Great question as well. There's been a time frame in the Diocese of Central Pennsylvania where they have done some real deliberate work. Shaped by Faith, I believe, is the name of the of their kind of formative program to gather congregations together in convocations and to ask questions about how they can partner together. And they're just coming to kind of the final segment of that process. So there's great learning there as to how that they can partner, just as we've had great learning, I believe, in our 5 priorities. I think you're on to the reality of really that curiosity, that learning from each other, that we might discover that there are ways in which we can be doing things differently that speak more to a future that's filled with opportunity and is spirit-led. So I agree. I think it's easy to just focus in terms of the finances, and I can say that I think as we gather more and talk more, some of that will also come into shape. Who's next? Go ahead, Sarah. Do we need to help Sarah? I don't know. Has she been unmuted?
There's a notification on your screen, Sarah, to accept being unmuted. Okay, we'll give you a second to do
There you
that.
go.
Maybe there's a delay. Okay.
Is that
there you
better?
go.
Yep. There we go. I can hear you. Oh, I lost you. Do we want to go back to Sarah?
Yes.
Why don't we go on to the next, Sarah? We'll come back to you in a moment. I think I see Betsy. No, you're not quite unmuted, Betsy.
Oh, had to do it through the program. Okay.
There you go.
Betsy Senegar, Christchurch, Towanda. I'm really excited about exploring this possibility. And I would say I second this idea that Father Tim had about not just thinking of ourselves as parishioners in a parish, but we have an identity that's more broad spectrum in the diocese. And I'm a recent graduate of the Stevenson School, which is a real powerhouse of formation for everyone. And I can't say enough how much I think it's benefited our diocese and how much we can move into the shared strengths. I'm sure that we have complementary as well as similar strengths in both dioceses. And as we tap into that, that's going to be some very exciting ventures. But one example is a Vital and Effective Leadership Institute, and it's offered through the school, and it's offered to lay people and clergy alike. And it's just very exciting time to come together and have some, deep discerning thoughts about leadership and the challenges we all face. And to do this together, I just think is really exciting. So I commend that. And I also think if we're not so siloed, if we just recognize our identities as more than just in our parish, but in the diocese, and really connect with other people in that way. Thank you.
Thanks, Betsy. Who's next?
Hello.
Hey.
This is much better, isn't it? I'm on
better.
I'm on a much better device now. I am Sarah from Grace in Kingston, and I actually will confirm exactly what Betsy just said. I just wanted to say that I am in support of this, at least in the investigation of it. But by the same token, I also understand feelings of anxiety. Every time there is the unknown, there is anxiety. And so I think that it's completely understandable that people are feeling unsure, but I also think the possibilities and opportunities are boundless. As Bishop often says, things we cannot see and know are ahead of us. And I think this is a perfect road to get there.
Thanks, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Who's next?
I think that's me. And I'm Sharon Solomon, and I'm a delegate from St. Luke's in Scranton. And I have a statement and a question, actually. And my statement is that so much we talk about being the benefits of a consolidation are some of the same benefits we talked about on a convocation level. And I think that we're still struggling to find those benefits and working together on that level. So then how do we then move into an even larger level? That's kind of my statement, if you will. My question is about numbers. Earlier, you mentioned 100 parishes. So what happened to the other 10?
Yeah, thanks. There may be others who can speak better to kind of where we are. I know that in terms of convocations and the assembly work, some are really active and vibrant, and others are still trying to kind of walk in the early days of that. So it's a new model that is going to take time. I think how that translates over to the Diocese of Central Pennsylvania is I think we will learn from each other how best to gather and to come together. This again it's another learning. And then in terms of congregations, I would say the answer to that is congregations are exploring their future and their future realities. The great example was the community in Kutztown, who decided that it was a new moment for them, that closure was in fact a statement of hopefulness. And in fact, they closed from being a congregation that gathered on Sundays to being a congregation that is now at the central, and I gathered with the mayor and others from around the town who are saying we are going to be a new way. Just the realities, we can look across the church. We've been seeing these trends for a number of years now, that the trends are saying that we're aging. the numbers in our congregations are also shifting. So it's the ideal moment to look for new opportunities and way in which to gather together. It's change. I think Sarah spoke of it well. This is a shifting moment for all denominations, not just the Episcopal Church, but I gather monthly with my colleagues in the Presbyterian Church, the Lutheran denomination, UCC, Moravian, even with my Roman Catholic brother in Scranton, and these trends are across mainline churches. So the question just is how we're going to respond together. I know it's scary to think that the numbers are maybe smaller, but that doesn't mean we won't be vibrant. We sometimes are more vibrant when two congregations come together, and we keep learning. Who's next? Go ahead, Vonnie.
Hi, Bishop. I wanted to say that several years ago, when we started coming together in Schuylkill County, we had a meeting with representatives of our diocese and also representatives from Central Pennsylvania, because our Ashland Church is on the border of Central Pennsylvania, and we were having trouble getting supply priests, and so were they in Shamokin. So we met in Trinity Pottsville, and we had a wonderful evening where we discussed our the way we were the same and what our differences were and how we could build on that. And I don't know whatever happened to that after that. We never met again, but it was a start, and it was a good thing to hear how we could help one another, even though it never came about. At least we talked. So again, we're out in the forefront of this, and as we always seem to be, as small as we are. So don't count us out. And I just hope people have an open mind, because you never know what's going to come out of it.
Thanks. Thank you. I think Charlie is next.
Hello, Bishop, and hello all. I just want to throw my hat in the ring here in support of this. One of the things that I'm very, very aware of is change. And change is a constant. You know, whether we want change or we don't, change is a constant. And we've all been changed. We've just danced out of 2 years of a pandemic. And when I look at that change, while it was very negative and while there were many different things, it was change, but that change allowed us to meet as we're meeting today virtually. That change also empowered parishes to take on a role to become virtual, to utilize technologies to our best advantage. And one of the other parts to that I look as a positive is, you know, several years ago, let's just go back 20 years, we didn't have all this technology. Today we do. And now it's up to us to make the best of it and then use it well. And I think now might be the time to embrace the change of two dioceses coming together. I don't think it takes away from either diocese. I think what it does is allow God's will and the will of the Spirit to continue to lift us up and move us through change. As my take is, God is all about change, and the Spirit of God is constantly working with God's creation. And what we've got to do as humans is kind of see where God is working and get behind that. Thank you, Bishop, for allowing me the opportunity to speak.
Thanks, Charlie. All right, I think I'm hearing from Steve and Paula that we don't have anyone else left in the queue. So at this time, we'll have a virtual vote. On your screen, you will see a simple voting poll with a yay or nay. Select yay if you're in favor and nay if you're not. I'd ask that you please vote. Voting is now closing. Voting is now closed. And the results are now posting on your screen. The motion carries, having received 91 yay votes and 8 nay votes. So resolution 5 is adopted. At this time, we are going to turn to our ECW for the reading of the Book of Remembrance.
Book of Remembrance 2022. Trinity, Athens, Lawrence. Trinity, Mount Pocono, Jonathan, Robert, Darlene, John. Principes, Dallas, Eleanor, Edna, Marcella. North Parish, Frackville, Charlotte, Ruby, Lois, Elizabeth. St. James, Drifton, Ronald. Grace Church, Kingston, Colleen, Mark, David, Charles, Carolyn, Judith, Sheila, Alan, Philip, Marilyn, Joanne, Donald. The Church of the Epiphany, Clark Summit. Alice, Robert, Claire, Amelia, Shirley, Kennard, Jeffrey, Eleanor, Saren, Lucretia, Tracy, Howard, Adele, Catherine, Chelsea. Trinity, Carbondale. The Reverend Steve, Maureen, Julie, Arthur. St. George, Hellertown, Ed. Holy Cross, Wilkes-Barre, Charlotte, Donald. St. Stephen's, Wilkes-Barre, Alice, Chris, Donna, George, Jane, Suzanne. Trinity, Pottsville, Cecilia, Roy, Allen. St. Gabriel's, Douglasville, William, Eric, Dawn, Adrian, Francis, James, Christine. The Church of the Redeemer, Sayre, Sharon, Lucille, David, Dorothy, Joan, Catherine. St. Luke's, Scranton, Sharon, Mary Ann. Trinity, West Pittston, Rebecca. St. John's, Hamlin, John. Christ Church, Reading, Marjorie, Merrill, Jean, Judith, Kip, Edward, Joel, Jean. Nativity Cathedral, Bethlehem, Raymond, Blanche, Jane, John, Agnes, Avis, Susan, Michael, Jane, John, Nancy, Jean, Joseph, Sharon, Frank, Jesse, John, Joan, Jack, Joan, Wilbur, Mary, Catherine, Jeff, Caroline, Marion, Mary, Weston.
Thank you. So many that we've lost that we love. We hold them close to our hearts this day. What a year it's been. So grateful to the ECW for their ministry and for this witness. We now move to other reports. These are reports received from diocesan committees. Those reports received by year end will be included in the annual journal. There is no admission of new parishes and missions at this time. I move to the election of diocesan officers now for the next year. I nominate for treasurer of the diocese, Elizabeth House, and I nominate for secretary of convention, Judith Dickerson. At this time, we will have a virtual vote. On your screen will once again be a simple voting poll with a yay or nay. Select yay if you're in favor and nay if you're not. Please vote. Voting is closing. Voting is now closed, and the results will be posted on your screen. The virtual vote has received 97 yay votes and 1 nay vote. Congratulations and thank you to Libby and to Judy. At this time, I call upon the chair of dispatch to ask if we have any unfinished business.
There is no unfinished business, Bishop.
Thank you. I do have an announcement. God willing, we plan to hold the 152nd Convention of the Episcopal Diocese of Bethlehem in person on October 13th and the 14th at the Centennial Conference Center, Homewood Suites by Hilton in Center Valley. More information will follow shortly. There is not enough gratitude for me to offer this day to fully recognize our diocesan staff. I lift up for you today Paula and Steve and Sandy and Cindy and Melinda and Barbara and John for all their efforts in making this convention such a success. Special thanks to Judy for the update on the Racial Justice and Reconciliation Task Force, to our Chancellor for her ever-wise consultation. Thank you to those who prepared our worship for today, Canon Barbara and Canon Sandy. And thank you to all of you for your flexibility, for your wise insights, for your participation, which was so rich. Thank you to all. Let me offer a concluding prayer. Eternal giver of life, remind us that a single water drop has the power to shape even the hardest stone. Remind us that a single act of hope has the power to inspire a world to be transformed. Remind us that even a single light has the power to dispel the longest shadow. When our hearts break, when lives are lost, when violence threatens to overcome, when division and disunity looms large, call us to be drops of water, acts of hope, lights of love. In your name we make our prayer, and may Almighty God bless you, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Bishop, I would like to move that we adjourn.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Bishop, I second the motion to adjourn this meeting.
Thank you. The 151st Annual Convention of the Diocese of Bethlehem is adjourned. We go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
See you soon.